Assalamu alaikum. In today's lesson, we're going to learn the difference between the present perfect simple and the past simple. Let's watch. Okay, first let's understand how they are formed. We form the present perfect by using have or has and then the past participle, which is the third form of the verb, like the examples. I've eaten my lunch. That's the present perfect. I have eaten. You have and then the third form of the verb. She has traveled abroad. We have seen this movie before. And we form the past simple by using the second form of the verb. I ate my lunch. So compare I have eaten with I ate. That's past simple. I have eaten, present perfect. I ate my lunch, past simple. She has traveled abroad. She traveled abroad, past simple. We have seen this movie before. We saw this movie before, past simple. Okay, well now what's the difference? When do we use the present perfect or the past simple? That's what we're gonna understand in this video. Okay, so when you mention some news, imagine the situation. You walk inside the room and you're sharing some news with some of your friends who don't know this news. They don't have this piece of information. For example, when you say, I have bought a car. So you're talking to one of your friends who doesn't know that and you want to tell him or her. So you say, I bought a car. This is some piece of news. For this reason, we use the present perfect. Now, you can say, I bought a car. You can use the past simple, but if you use the past simple, it's not going to be a piece of news. It's not going to be something exciting that you are sharing with one of your friends. Here's another example. The criminal has been arrested. So you're watching the news on TV and then they say the criminal has been arrested. One more time, present perfect is ideal for talking about news. If you want to talk about the news, use the present perfect. Can you say the criminal was arrested? Yes, you can, no problems, but it's not gonna indicate that this is some piece of news. My brother has arrived to his home safely. You're sharing this with your mom, for example. She doesn't know this, and you're telling her this piece of news for the first time. When you do that, you use the present perfect. Now, when you talk about the details of this news, we use the past simple. So when you are introducing the news, use the present perfect. But if you want to talk about the details, use the past simple. Like this example. My brother has arrived in America. Present perfect, okay? Now details. He emailed me this morning. Details. He booked in a hotel near the airport. Details. He arrived there at 7 a.m. Details. So for the main news, use the present perfect. For the details, use the past simple. I hope you understand that. For the main news, use the present perfect. For the details, use the past simple. Another example, when you say, I bought a car. So that's the main news. If you want to talk about the details, it cost me $10,000. I bought it from one of my friends, and so on. Now, when you talk about an action that started happening in the past and still happening until now, we use the present perfect with state verbs, not with all the verbs, with the state verbs. And I am going to explain to you what state verbs are. But let's look at these examples first. I have lived in Cairo for 5 years. That means I still live in Cairo. When you say I lived in Cairo for 5 years, that means I don't live in Cairo anymore. I've had this car for 6 months. That means I still have this car. When you say I had this car for 6 months, that means I don't have this car anymore. I sold it to another person. Now, what are state verbs? They are verbs that cannot be acted. You cannot act them. You cannot show them, like be and have and know and understand and so on. These verbs usually don't take ing. I am happy now. So that's verb to be. We don't say I am being happy now. We don't say that. I have $12 now. That's a state verb, have. We don't say I am having $12 now, even though we're talking about now. I know the answer to the questions you're asking. We say I know, not I am knowing. Now I understand what you mean. We say I understand, not I am understanding. So these are state verbs. Now, what are action verbs? Like eat and walk and run and swim and sleep and so on. These verbs, you can act them, right? And they can normally take ing. I am eating now. Compare, I have $12 now and I'm eating now. Here we have now and there we have now. But here we can put ing, but with the state verbs, we cannot put ing. She's walking now. ing. We're swimming now, ing. So if you have state verbs with the present perfect, they indicate something that started happening in the past and still happening until now. Okay, when you talk about an action that happened in the past and finished, but it has an effect on the present. So it finished, but it has an effect on the present. Like this example. Hey, Islam, would you like to watch Al Jazeera movie with me? No, thanks, I've watched it before. So this is an action that happened in the past and finished, but it has an effect on the present. What is the effect? I don't want to watch it again. That's the effect because I saw it before. You understand? We can also use it in the question if you would like to ask someone about whether he has done something in his entire life or not, in your whole life. If you're asking about someone's whole life, use the present perfect. Have you ever traveled abroad before? So I'm asking about your whole life. And we also use ever. Usually, if you have ever, use the present perfect. I'm not asking about a specific period of your life. I'm asking about your whole life. Have you ever ridden a motorcycle? Use the present perfect. Compare this with the following example. Did you travel abroad in 2013? I'm asking about 2013 only. Did you ride a motorcycle yesterday? I'm asking about yesterday only. So if you're asking about a specific time in the past, use the past simple. If you're asking about someone's whole life, use the present perfect. If you want to say that you've never done, so if you want to use the negative, I have never done something in my entire life, use the present perfect. I have never traveled abroad before, never. Use the present perfect, was never also. If you have never or ever, it's preferable to use the present perfect. I have never eaten sushi before. I'm talking about my whole life. Compare this with the following examples. I didn't travel abroad in 2015, but maybe before 2015, I traveled abroad. Maybe after 2015, I traveled abroad. I didn't eat any sushi when I traveled to China. I'm only talking about my time in China. Now compare this with that. I've never eaten sushi before in my whole life until now, from the day I was born until now. But here in the situation, I'm only talking about my time in China. Maybe I ate sushi before I traveled to China or after I returned from China. You understand the difference? Okay, number 7. If you mention the time, don't use the present perfect. I bought a car 3 months ago. If you mention the time, 3 months ago. Don't say I have bought a car 3 months ago. I got married in 2006. You mentioned the time, so don't say I have got married. I've gotten married in 2006. Don't say that. I ate my breakfast at 10 o'clock. You mentioned time, you said 10 o'clock. So don't say I have eaten my breakfast. She visited her relatives last week. Last week. Don't say she has visited her relatives. So in these situations, we mentioned the time 3 months ago, 2006, 10 o'clock, last week. If you mention the time, don't use the present perfect. Do not use the present perfect. Use the past simple. Sometimes we use the past simple with actions that happened in the past and they have no chance of being repeated again. No chance of being repeated again. In contrast, we use the present perfect with actions that happened in the past and they have a chance of being repeated again. Consider this example. Naguib Mahfouz wrote so many wonderful novels. Naguib Mahfouz died. He cannot write again. So we use the past simple. Alaa al-Aswani has written so many wonderful novels. He's alive. He can write again. He can write again. So we use the present perfect. So one more time. If there is a chance that the action might be repeated again, we use the present perfect. If there is no chance that the action will be repeated again, use the past simple. It's also common to use the present perfect with these words, ever or never. And we talked about that before, yet or already. It's not a rule. It's not a rule that whenever you see these words, you have to use the present perfect, but it's preferable. It's preferable to use the present perfect with these words. Like this example, have you ever traveled abroad? I've never seen snow in my life. I've already eaten my lunch. Have you eaten your lunch yet until now? Okay. Now let's practice. Complete these sentences using the present perfect or the past simple. Take some time. Think about them. Think about them. You can pause the screen and in a few seconds, I'm going to show you the correct answers. Okay, let's take a look at the right answers. Amira has arrived. She's waiting for you outside. This is some piece of news. Like you're telling someone something that he doesn't know. So when you're telling someone something that he doesn't know, it's preferable to use the present perfect. And the lady's waiting outside. Ahmed went to a party last night. We mentioned the time. We said last night. Remember, we said that if you mention the time, use the past simple. Don't use the present perfect. This TV has been in my office since I opened it. Okay, I still have the TV because I say this TV. I am pointing to the TV. If I still have it, use the present perfect. Has plus the past participle. Fatma has never seen snow in her entire life. Remember, if you're talking about someone's entire life until this moment, use the present perfect. Did you go to the club last Friday? We mentioned the time. If you mention the time, use the past simple. Have you ever been to Sharm el-Sheikh? I'm asking about someone's entire life. Have you ever in your whole life been to Sharm el-Sheikh? And also, if you have ever, it's preferable to use the present perfect. And then Ali says, no, never. Do the same thing. Have these questions and statements. Decide if you're going to use the present perfect or the past simple. Okay. I have a surprise for you. Ahmed and Mona have gotten married. It's some kind of news. You don't know it. So if you're sharing some news, use the present perfect. I've had the same car for 3 years. I still have it and I will never sell it. So use the present perfect. Have plus the past participle. Have had. It seems wrong, but it's not wrong. I had a Suzuki car and then I sold it, right? So past simple. Would you like to eat some pizza? No, thanks. I've eaten my lunch. This is something that happened in the past and finished in the past, but it has an effect on the present. And the effect is that I don't want to eat again. I'm not hungry. The teacher has declared the results. We all failed. This is some news. We arrived in England in 2010. If you mention the time, don't use the present perfect. Use the past simple. Here are some more exercises. Complete the mini dialogue with the present perfect form of the verbs. Use the present perfect. Here, you have to use the present perfect in every time. You're not choosing between the present perfect and the past simple. Only use the present perfect. But you need to use one of these adverbs in the list. So you're going to decide if you're going to use already, or ever, or never, or yet. And you have the verbs here, and you have to put these verbs in the present perfect. That's what you need to do. I'll give you some time to write down your answers. You need to grab a pen and a piece of paper. And then in a few seconds, I'm going to show you the correct answers. You need to pause the screen, of course. Okay, let's take a look at the right answers. Have you played the lottery yet? We're supposed to use yet. Have you ever booked the flight online? Ever. If you're making a question, use ever. If you're making a negative statement, use never. When are you going to buy a motorcycle? Soon. I have already saved almost $1,000 already until now. Have you paid the electricity bill yet? No, sorry, I forgot. Have your parents ever lent you money? Ever lent you money? Yes, but I paid it back as soon as I could. Do the same thing. You're supposed to put these verbs in the present perfect and use one of these adverbs here. Some time, think about it. Okay, I will now show you the correct answers. I don't know. I have never used it. Have you ever been to Thailand? No, I haven't, but I would like to someday. I have already spent it, Do you like Hugh Jackman? Yes, I've already seen his new movie twice. Okay. Now, do the following sentences have grammatical mistakes? If they do, correct them. Take some time. Look at these sentences. Do they have grammatical mistakes? Are we using the present perfect or the past simple correctly? If yes, no problems. If you feel that there is a mistake, you need to correct it. Take some time, think about it. Okay, now I'm going to show you the correct answers. Great news. Dean has inherited. It's some piece of news. If it's some piece of news, use the present perfect as we agreed. Now, did your sister pay you back yet? If you have yet, as we said before, it's preferable to use the present perfect. We booked our vacation online a month ago. No mistakes here. When have you bought your leather jacket? Now, if you're asking about details, right? You're asking about details like when and why and who and where did this happen. If you're asking about the details of some news, use the past simple. One more time, if you're asking about details, when and why and where and who and how, use the past simple, not the present perfect. This is a question about the details. So use the past simple. Did you buy? When did you buy? They have finished paying back the loan last month. If you mention the time, don't use the present perfect. Use the past simple. Do the same thing. Read the sentences, decide if they have grammatical mistakes. If they do, correct them. Okay, let's take a look at the right answers. We haven't paid the gas bill yet. It's correct. We have yet, we have the present perfect, no problems. Have you ever wasted a lot of money on something? I'm asking you about your whole life, and we have ever. So it's correct. We have the present perfect correctly. I am sure I haven't borrowed any money from you last week. If you mention the time, don't use the present perfect. Use the past simple. So I'm sure I didn't borrow. I spent my salary really quickly last month. If you mention the time, use the past simple. So it's correct. Have you seen the Batman movie on TV yesterday? If you mention the time, don't use the present perfect. Use the past simple. So did you see? Okay. Now complete the sentences with the present perfect. Every time you're going to use the present perfect, not the past simple, not the past simple. But you need to decide if you're going to use for or since, like this example. I've had my car for about a month. If you have a period of time, use the present, use for. If you have a specific date, like for example, in 2010, last year, last month, use since. Take some time, think about them. Okay, now let's take a look at the right answers. You can pause the screen, of course. My mom has been sick since last Friday, not for. That's a specific date, last Friday. We have known each other since we were in school. That's a specific time. No, it's not a period. He has worked for the same company for 5 years. That's a period. Do the same thing here. You need to put these verbs in the present perfect and decide if you're going to use for or since. Usually for or since indicate that we need to use the present perfect. Okay. Now I'm going to show you the right answers. They have lived in Miami since they got married. My parents have been away for 3 days. That's a period. I have wanted to go to Australia for a long time. She hasn't spoken to me since last year. Okay. Here in the situation, you're supposed to choose the correct answer. Are you going to use the present perfect or the past simple? Take some time, think about your answers. Okay, now I'm going to show you the correct answers. I have never owed any money to the bank in my life. I'm talking about my entire life. I am not talking about a specific period. They charged us too much for the meal last night. We mentioned the time. So if you mention the time, use the past simple. I know some great cheap places to stay in Seoul. I've been there a few times. This is an action that has a chance of being repeated. I didn't say anything that indicates that I'm not gonna go there anymore. If I am never going to go there anymore, then I should use the past simple. But if I have been to a place a few times and there is a good chance that I'm going to go to this place again, then I should use the present perfect. Paul didn't inherit anything from his grandmother when she died. We mentioned the time, we said when she died. So use the past simple. You have lent him money so many times, but he never pays you back. You have done this action, and I am angry because there is a chance that you might repeat this action. There is nothing that indicates that you're not going to repeat this action. Do the same thing. Choose the correct answer. Present perfect or past simple. Okay, now I'm going to show you the right answers. How much did your TV cost? If you're asking about the details, use the past simple. How many times have you wasted money on clothes you never wear? This is a repeated action. And I'm blaming someone. I'm not asking about details here. I'm asking about the number of times because there is a chance that you're going to repeat that. Compare this one with that one. You bought the TV and it cost you a certain amount of money. It's not going to cost you again because you already bought the TV and it's over. But you spending money on clothes you never wear is something that will be repeated in the future because this is your personality. So that's why we use the present perfect. I know this one's confusing. You need to think about it for some time. You might feel that number 7 is like number 6, but it's not. Think about them. And if you still don't understand, you can ask me and I'm going to explain them to you again. Number 8, I didn't have any coins, so I couldn't put any money in the parking meter. It's a specific situation in the past, and we use the past simple here. So let's use the past simple in the other part. Have you ever invested any money in a company? I'm asking about your whole life. Have you ever done that in your whole life? And we have ever. My girlfriend has a high-paying job. She earned $85,000 last year. We mentioned the time. We said last year. Okay, that's the end of this lesson. I hope it was useful. If you have any questions, please let me know. Assalamu alaikum.